Next person up, I would like to introduce, and I don't know where she went. Oh, Erin McClellan. She's running as for the state treasurer, and she will come up and tell you all the great things about Erin McClellan. Thank you.
And so about 5,000 steelworkers in my backyard in my house district alone. I come from 4 generations of organized labor. My great-grandfather was an organizer for CIO at the turn of the century. My grandfather was a steelworker at Pullman Standard fighting the Rockefellers, and both my brothers and parents are in unions. So this is really about working people for me. One of the issues that I think all 3 of us are addressing is the fact that the Supreme Court, which has been stacked by people that Donald Trump has put on, have done some pretty interesting things in the past few years as well as just the past few months. I'm sure you know what they did to Roe v. Wade. But did you know that they are annihilating our entire administrative government? They are making it so the Securities and Exchange Commission can no longer tell Wall Street to behave themselves. They are making it so the National Labor Relations Board cannot tell corporations, don't do bad things to our workers and treat them fair. They're telling the EPA that you can't go into a corporation and say, don't contaminate our air, water, and ground and ruin our children's futures. All of that is coming to an end because the Supreme Court is taking away all their power. That just made your statewide row offices 10 times more important than they've ever been. You heard Malcolm say that if we don't have the data and information and numbers and accountability that the auditor delivers, then we can't manage your investments. Well, that's where the treasurer comes in. The treasurer runs 3 funds. 3 are pension funds, the state pension, the teacher's pension, and the municipal pension. And then the rest is the 529 accounts in those funds. Obviously, I disagree with the current treasurer on the fact that the election was rigged in 2020, which I found was very interesting, as Malcolm pointed out, that she felt that the Republicans won the presidency, but her race was just fine. We got that one right. So either that means that she doesn't really like to tell the truth, or she can't count. Which I think is rather disqualifying for the person running your $163 billion. In addition, she did do a speech calling for the insurrection and things like that. But when I start looking at what she's actually done as the treasurer, there is some alarming stuff. And one of the most recent things we found, and I've talked to people on the pension board, and she's supposed to have them vote on contracts for investment, and that's not happening. Her people are just signing them. And one of the contracts I found was with Bank of New York Mellon to start investing our teachers' pension, specifically the Peasers Pension Fund, in the Tadawal. That would be the Saudi Arabian Stock Exchange. Now, this exchange has collapsed twice. It is primarily capitalized by one company, Aramco. That is the state-owned oil company of Saudi Arabia, the beneficiary of which is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. You may remember him. He likes to murder and dismember reporters. That is where she wants to put your money. I have talked to investment managers and brokers on both sides of the aisle, and they cannot explain to me why on earth we would do something that ridiculous. So we need to start to restore accountability and integrity in our investments and make sure we do it here at home. If you want to invest in evil oil empires, we got plenty here. You don't need to go over there. BP's here. They're available. They're publicly traded. The second thing that she did, which is absolutely appalling, is Democratic treasurers across the country have combined their resources. We have $163 billion. You start combining those resources, that's shareholder power. We own stock in almost every publicly traded company and index that there is. Which means that if your treasurer actually cares about your society, about your environment, about how we're going to affect gun violence in this country, you can use that shareholder power not just in the streets, not just in your activist groups, not just in your committee rooms, but in the boardroom. And when Joe Torcello was our Democratic treasurer, He actually used that shareholder power. He used it to go after pharmaceutical companies. And he used his vote to say, no, we're not creating an entire generation of addicted persons and damaging our children. He used it to go after gun manufacturers to enforce and push more accountability, more regulation, more safety and control. When our current treasurer, Stacey Garrity, came in, she completely disengaged from the shareholder engagement program. My Democratic friends, that amounts to about $3 trillion worth of shareholder power. You want to fight the rich? You do it in the treasurer's office. But we need somebody in there that actually wants to be on the details, and I assure you, she is absolutely not. Finally, she is supporting a statewide savings scam that it was created by the Arnold Foundation. They want to crash Social Security and public sector pensions, those folks. But the goal of this program is to convince you that if you save on your own, you don't need Social Security, you don't need public sector pensions. And I don't agree with that. This program actually uses a self-directed IRA, which the SEC came out and said is highly susceptible to fraud. Is that the type of program we should be mandating on every small business in the state and encouraging bartenders, baristas, and frontline workers to participate in? I don't think so. And again, I can't find a single investment firm that thinks that giving that to frontline workers is a good idea. We have our own program that, by the way, would allow employers to contribute, because I'm a Democrat, which means if the employer can't put money into it, it's not retirement, it's just a savings plan. And that is the distinction that we make when it comes to retirement. As Democrats, we believe our companies and our corporations, they pay their fair share. Finally, when I was, for my early career, I spent a year training under former United States Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill. And Paul got fired by George Bush for telling the truth. What he wanted to tell the truth about is, you may know that Congress takes money out of your Social Security, and they put IOUs in there. He wanted to actually document the amount of money that they had taken out and come up with a number and apply interest to it. He felt that you put that money in, that is not an entitlement like the Republicans say. We paid for that, and it is an obligation that we should get back. He wanted that on the balance sheet. We did the same thing to our teachers' pensions. We defunded them for years, didn't put the annual required contribution because the Republicans in Harrisburg just figured they didn't need that. Yet your school district put the money in. Your teachers put the money in. I want that debt put back on the state's balance sheet with interest, so in the future we have people running for governor, running for state rep, state senator, on putting that money back where it belongs, given to the people to which it is owed. So right now you have 3 Republicans as your lapdogs for the Republican Party instead of watchdogs for the people. Your treasury is not filled by any elected official or any corporation. It is filled by the working people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's who your treasurer, your auditor general, and your attorney general are obligated to. That's who we work for. If we are going to really start to address what the Supreme Court is undoing, we're gonna need all 3 of us in there, because we're gonna do this as a team. If Wall Street's doing stuff, I need Malcolm to give me the data, I need Eugene to prosecute, and I gotta deal with it as I pay the bills. We all are gonna have to work together. We are running as a great team. So I'm asking you to support all 3 of us so we can bring real watchdogs back to Harrisburg, restore accountability, transparency, help lift up this Commonwealth, make up for what the Supreme Court is doing, and advance the Democratic Party and working people for generations to come. I'm Erin McClellan. I'm running to be your next state treasurer. Thank you so much.
I don't know how to follow that.